And welcome to today's live chat, and I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is the Hitler Diaries yet again. So I apologize for those who were here on Wednesday, and there was a problem that it was my fault. I set the time incorrectly. I forgot that my telephone's on UK time, whereas I normally do everything on Central European time, so I messed that one up. Anyway, the reason actually I wanted to talk about this is because of the death of Gerd Heidemann, and he was the person who discovered the Hitler Diaries, and he died at the beginning of December 2024. I found this out in January, but first of all, I was at Stuttgart at a trade fair, and then after it, because I've got to sort of do everything related to that, and I'd actually planned on doing something of this nature when I was in the UK, but then I had this Jack the Ripper hoax sort of took over the news cycle, so to speak, and so therefore I thought that from a historical point of view, as that was then in plenty of news outlets, I felt some type of, I don't know if obligation is the right word, but I felt as though I had some need to point out the obvious fraud in this so-called discovery of the identity of Jack the Ripper and the DNA shawl hoax. Anyway, so Gerd Heidemann has died, and for me, actually, personally, this actually it's another of the things I think I sort of messed up in my life, because I really wanted to go and see him, and I did have his telephone number. And last year, I even said to a friend of mine, I'll be in Hamburg in August. So every year I go to a trade fair, which starts on the last weekend of August, and it goes through the first week of September. And so I have to be there because it's the most important thing for what I do always, and that's held in Dusseldorf. And what I do, as a rule, is I travel from Gdansk and in Poland, and then I go through North Germany somewhere. So I said to a friend, okay, so he's a journalist in Hamburg, and I said, let's go together to see Gerd Heidemann. And anyway, didn't do it last year, put it off for some reason. Now, despite his age, he was born in 1931. Despite his age, you can see actually there's television clips when he's interviewed, and he was in very good physical condition. I saw something today. It was on SWR, and it's an excellent documentary for those who can speak German. I'll give a link to it if I remember. I'll put a link in it below. Really brilliant. It's the best account I've seen so far on the Hitler Diaries, or rather the effects in Germany of them, shall we say, because there are one or two accounts other than that. But it is a really very, very good account of how it happened. It's got interviews not only with him, but also with Konrad Kujau. Now, Gerd Heidemann, unfortunately, he was really let down by this one event in his life. I mean, it's pretty major, I think, let somebody down by. But what he'd done previously was absolutely, I would say, was sort of journalistically brilliant. Now, he was born in 1931. His father cleared off, and his mother ended up marrying a policeman, and he had the same sort of thing as Hitler had. Hitler almost ended up with a really daft surname, which was Schicklgruber, and Gerd Heidemann, I've forgotten what his name originally was, but I saw in this interview on SWR, he said that thanks to his mother marrying this policeman, he got this normal name of Heidemann. Elternick, Schöbrunn, that was it, Schöbrunn. Whatever, anyway. And so, like everybody of his age, he ended up joining the Hitler Youth. And so, by the time he's starting looking for work, Germany's been destroyed, and it must have been quite difficult for anybody to get work. But he got employment with Stern. Stern was created as a magazine around 1948. Henry Nannen, and there's somebody playing Henry Nannen. appears in many in all of the films about it. So you got the British one was done by Granada in 1992. You've got Stonk. You've got produced in Germany, I think, a couple of years later. There's a couple more. There's one called Faking Hitler, which I haven't seen, which was produced on German TV about 3 years ago. And so Henry Nannen founded this paper, but he sold it to a major publishing group, but he still stayed on. He still worked for the company, whereas he'd been in the propaganda company in the Balkans during the Second World War. His ideas, what he did with Stern, was he developed it into a more progressive way of thinking, and that's how it was a progressive magazine. And that's why lots of the people you often hear saying, well, they don't like the way Stern is. They don't like it because it's a liberal magazine. And this is what people involved in this Hitler Diaries business. He sold it, and eventually Bertelsmann, a major one, the biggest, one of the biggest publishing groups in the world, Gruner and Jahr, actually ended up owning Stern. And what they did they went for what they did in the early 70s, showing lots of naked ladies, a lot of scandal, and this type of thing. That was the sort of thing which then sold magazines and papers, and so that's where it ended up. Now, in the case of Gerd Heidemann, though, he was a war reporter, and above all, he was in Nigeria in the early 60s, Angola, that was 76. Mozambique, Burundi, Guinea-Bissau, Uganda, but he was also in the Congo, and it was there that he tracked down somebody called Siegfried Müller. And Siegfried Müller was also known as Congo Müller. He was a mercenary, and so he was born around 1920 or thereabouts, can't quite remember, 21 or something like that. So he went through the Second World War. And then after the war, he ended up being a mercenary. He died quite young, actually, of something completely unrelated to being a mercenary. I think he was about 42 or 43, and with some form of cancer he died of. But anyway, he got lost in Africa, and a bit like, I think it was Henry Morgan who found Dr. Livingstone. He did find him, didn't he? Heidemann found Congo Müller somewhere in the jungle or something like that, and so this is what made him quite famous. But a film was made of it in East Germany called Commando 52, Commando 52, and that premiered in November 1965 Leipzig Film Festival. So he was quite well known. Now, there's a couple of other things really important in his life. He bought a boat which turned out to be Hermann Goering's boat. Now, I have done longer videos on this subject, but the thing about this boat, now this was quite daft. The more I think about it, the dafter it appears to me. So he thought about buying a boat as an investment, but clearly he knew nothing about it. And the problem with this is, you might think, oh, that boat needs rescuing, but he clearly wasn't the person to do it. He had to take out a special, there's a boat mortgage you can get. I'm sure you can get them these days as well. But and he took a mortgage out on this boat for 300,000 marks. Now, that mightn't sound like much money today when you say it's about 100 in today's money. That's about that'd be about 160,000 euros. So times by 4 approximately to get 4.5 to get today's money. That might seem very much for those who've got these big houses and all the rest of it, but at the time that was a huge amount of cash, and it was far above what his earnings could actually hope for. But anyway, the company bailed him out, and hoping that they get some people, some Nazis on board, old Nazis, I should say, and then they would start revealing things. But of course, nothing like that ever happened. Another thing which happened to him was that he was in a relationship with Hermann Goering's daughter, Edda. Today I watched a film. Well, it was only just a brief clip, but it was probably from a news item or something, of her, and she really does look like her father. Sorry. So anyway, he got in. He was noted. He was called the Bloodhound for being something he would never let the story get away. Now the problem is with people like this. Now I was the owner of a business magazine, and the problem is you get people like that. They want to keep getting more and more and more and more information. The trouble is that they don't understand that there's a date when everything has to be at the printers, and then it has to go out. So he was trying to get more and more and more information, not realizing the deadline's passed, and therefore that somebody else had to cover for him, had to put his stories together on the basis of the information that he'd supplied, or alternatively they had to fix something else into the story instead. So people like this who are very tenacious may have some benefits, but when it comes to certain print magazines, it doesn't really work. It would work better with internet, but the thing is this, is that internet doesn't lend itself to investigative journalism because it costs a lot of money, and in the internet things people won't pay for things, so it sort of ceases to have its value. So anyway, he got onto this Hitler Diaries. Now I won't go through the whole thing about the Hitler Diaries again, but I'd like to put a few points to you. Now what we know is that somebody it was a forger, Konrad Kuja, and he forged one diary. It ended up in the hands of somebody called Stiefel. Incidentally, I do have his family's telephone number, so I do keep meaning that next time I'm there, I've got to go and see him. And Mr. Stiefel was quite young at the time. Quite young, sorry, he was in his 40s. He wasn't as old. He's portrayed in the fictional account, semi-fictional accounts of the have been put on film, this one diary came into the hands of Heidemann. He found out about it, and then he made a bid to buy all the lot. Now, what Kuja appears to have been thinking, I think logical thing to do is, if you're going to forge a Hitler diary, this ends up in this sort of underground world of people who are involved in this type of things, and then everybody, they will talk about amongst themselves, but they won't talk about with anyone else. So they would find a buyer like that. Somebody, I suppose it's a bit like somebody has a work of art, they want to have a Rembrandt or something at home, and just they look at it, or something of that nature. So sorry, I'll answer the questions at the end, okay? And so that is what I think he wanted to do. Thing is, when he saw the fact, both Heidemann and Kuja said that when Heidemann showed him the money, he realized that he was going to buy a lot, and Kuja, when he saw the money, he realized he was going to write the lot. Somewhere along these lines, it was the money which made them do it. Now the question is, now when it came to court later, the judge said that Stern should have been in the dock for offering to pay for these diaries. But this thing about checkbook journalism, to be quite honest, I can't see what else in the circumstances they could have done as far as that was concerned about offering to pay for these things. On the other hand, there was a number of mistakes, really bad mistakes, which were really made. And I'm going to give you an example of one. It was the diary itself is awful. I tried reading it. It's online now, or they are online now. I was going to do a video of one. I just picked the date of the 20th of July, what Hitler allegedly wrote about the 20th of July. And it was so bad that I even trying to liven it up a bit or something, it is absolutely awful. It is awfully boring. And and I think this should have, in itself, should have been suspicious. Now, yesterday, I was putting together a video. It's on the head of the SS Liebstandarte band, the orchestra. He's got Hermann Müller John, and I found a photograph, and I put the photograph in the video. The thing is this, it was only afterwards I thought, just a minute, this was in the diary. This visit of Hitler, the Liebstandarte, was in the Hitler diary, and he got the wrong year. I got 1934 and 1935 mixed up. And this was told by, who was in head of the League Standard, and I've forgotten his name. It'll come back. I forgot his name once before as well. It's not the first time I've forgotten his name, it's the second time. Anyway, he told Heidemann that didn't happen. The year was wrong, because he was there. And then Heidemann's, he sort of dismissed it. And this is no longer the bloodhound, but this is somebody who really wants to believe in something. And it's very easy for someone to say, sitting in like sort of in this comfortable surrounding, sort of having a bit of a laugh about the whole thing, but that he didn't get, he should have known. I've often wondered, if it had been me, at what stage would I have started to doubt it? And I would have started, I think, to doubt it. I don't know. I mean, it's hard. I mean, you got the first one, you read it. The thing is, there's so much falsifications on the market. I mean, the first thing you think, maybe it's false. Maybe the problem was this, that all the background to it, he'd put together himself. He didn't get it from Kuyao. He'd found this out. So on the 20th of April, 1945, 10 aeroplanes left. I've done a video on Operation Seraglio. This is what it's called, Operation Seraglio. The last one was shot down. Or sorry, it came down. It might have been shot down. We don't know. It came down. It crashed. It crashed in the Heidenholz roads, which is almost on the Czech border. There's a motorway that goes down there now. So if you're in Dresden, you're heading towards Prague. It's just before you cross the Czech border. That's where it is. The graves of he checked who the pilot was, and he got that from the organization which deals with war dead. And then he went to the place where they died. He died, and he found the graves still there. Incidentally, although the graves have been moved, they're now next to the church, but they are. So suddenly, this Gundelfingen, the pilot, he's there. So everything fits together. And then the diary turns up from East Germany. He tells Kuyao, and Kuyao does it to actually, so it all fits together. So it's an amazing coincidence. So he's got a diary, and he really, really believes in it. I know one of the questions I've often asked myself is this, and this would make an interesting video. If I'd been in Russia just before the revolution, at what stage would I have stopped believing in the revolution? And so it was me, a hardcore anti-communist, a Cold War warrior. But I have no doubt that I would have supported the Bolsheviks in 1917. But at what stage would I have stopped? And I've often gone through my mind, when would I have seen the light? And I put myself in this situation with these diaries as well. Would I have, when I had the first one in my hand, would I have given up? Or would I have seen it through? Now, the thing you always ask is this: why didn't Bertelsmann or Gruner and Jahr, why didn't they put it over for testing? That's what they should have done. I mean, there's no question in my mind on that one. Not only that, they should have actually had somebody on board to check things, even if it was on a page-by-page basis. Swear the person to secrecy, give them a photocopy, and ask them to look at it. I mean, I think that would have been the correct thing to do. But they so much believed in this scoop, the scoop of the decade or even the century, that they really wanted to push it through. And not only that, they did test the handwriting, and the handwriting matched. But then again, it would do, because it was compared to another Kuyao forgery. Now, when this all came out, it went to trial, and part of what happened was that it was the company which actually reported the theft, and obviously they wanted to recuperate some of their cash, most of which they didn't recuperate, and it's been alleged that Heidemann was stealing or taking some of the money as a commission. So they would give him whatever, 100,000 euros to give to Kuyau, and he'd keep 20,000 or 25,000 or even more back for himself. And now Kuyau continues to say that he kept all the money. He didn't get all the money. Heidemann denied it to the very end. The fact that Heidemann was living in poverty, according to an article in Independent in 2008, he was living off social security, and in his accommodation wasn't particularly good. Now, in this SWR documentary I mentioned, which I'll provide the link for if I remember to put it in, then you can see his archive. And it's in like a cellar. I mean, it's not sort of, normally you wouldn't want to put archive in the cellar because the air, I mean, things just they go off. The paper, it's not a good environment. You need to keep it slightly warm. Obviously I can't say if he was stealing. He wasn't stealing, but Kuyau says he was. But Kuyau was he didn't tell the truth anyway. There's a very interesting little detail though, about the first time that he met Kuyau. He had an address which is in a village to the north of Stuttgart, and he went there. He rang the bell, but the bell didn't say the name he'd been given, Fischer. It said Kuyau. So he had the name Kuyau from the very beginning. But when he said, oh yeah, that's the person that used to live here, he doesn't live here any longer, he accepted it. I suppose we all would, wouldn't we? But he'd never followed that through. It wasn't the fact that he got the name Connie Kuyau only at the very end. He knew from the beginning about him and who he was. Indeed, he could have checked on his background, because he did have a police record for forging luncheon vouchers, amongst other things. And he had left East Germany, having been accused of theft there, although that might have been more difficult to actually check at the time. So after this, now this is the real irony of this. After this, Konrad Kuyau went to prison, but he was released early because he had throat cancer, which eventually killed him in the year 2000. But he then had a career making fake paintings and doing other. Indeed, there are now fake Kuyaus, and so he did really well out of it. He became a bit of a star in his own right. There is a Kuyau museum. I plan to go there in January to go around and see it. It's in one of the towns just the north of Stuttgart. I had to drive from Stuttgart to Heilbronn. In any case, I'm going to be driving through there. I'll go and see it. I'll probably go and see it in April next month. In any case. But as far as Heidemann was concerned, his wife left him in 1986, so he went to prison as well, and he could even hear Kuyau laughing and joking with journalists when they were both on remand. I don't think he had two children. I think he lost contact with both of them. One died, and I can't remember what happened with the other one now. But whatever it was. It wasn't really very impressive. It was an awful thing to happen, and he was blamed for everything that happened. Well, of course, it was to a certain extent it was all his fault, but it's this contrast between Kuyau. What happened to him? Well, of course, Kuyau died. He was only 62 years old when he died. Heidemann lived to be 93 in 5 days. So. Yeah, but other than that, anyway, so there's Gerd Heidemann. Now, I was planning on reading Gerd Heidemann's obituary from the Times. The Times, of course, being the paper which, in the United Kingdom that was going to produce to publish the diaries. In fact, it did publish the first one, or Sunday Times did, but it was behind a paywall, and I didn't want to pay for it. So there you go. Good. Thanks for listening. Now I'll have a look now at some of the questions. And I'll go through them. have to move this over though, because the questions are on the left and the there we go, and the telephone's on the right. So I'll start off here. And so Rene, hello Colin, hello David, hello Mike. And David's embarrassed of being American. Look, David, it's not the fault of the nationality, and I keep saying this, it's the fault of the, I don't blame Russians, I blame the leadership. I've never blamed Germans, I've blamed Nazism, which is an international organization. Anyway, so it's not the fault of the United States. You may, of course, it could be argued that what's happened is the fault of the people who voted for them, because they knew precisely who they were voting for. And so I don't, from this point of view, I don't even blame Trump, because he was quite honest about, how dishonest he was. Anyway, that apart, that's probably a subject for a different time. Michael asks if I'm in a hotel. No, I'm not. I'm in a flat. And Rowan, hello, and hello Nina, hello Lily Marie, and Colin asked if I'm keeping a diary. No, I don't. I put things online, and so there we go. Okay then. So well, anyway, thanks to all of you for being here today. This is I find this subject totally fascinating. I can't explain. Well, I can explain it because I worked in publishing. I believe that history is about entertainment. So to even when or I know it's a bit difficult. So a lot of stuff that I deal with isn't really entertaining material, but I do believe that it should be. It's not just something happened in the past. It's got to be living in the present. I put it that way. And indeed, as far as that the aforementioned president is concerned, I mean, if he knew a little bit about history, then he wouldn't be doing these things he's doing now. I did see, incidentally, a photograph of J.D. Vance with a hammer and sickle on, a T-shirt on. Maybe he was, maybe that wasn't taken this week, but I think it shows where sympathies actually lie. Well, Colin remembers Stern from when he was growing up. Well, I can remember the scandal because I was in France. I was a student at the time. The thing was, at the time you didn't really get the information you'd get today. I mean, it'd be far better if it happened now. You get updates non-stop. Then you found out once a week in an article, which was, I don't know, maybe 1,000 words or something like that. Anyway, good. So, well, thanks to everybody for being here today. Okay, I think I'll leave it now. I'll try and do something else tomorrow. Today I got up at 3:30 in the morning because last week I got up. I wanted to be on the first train, so I could film the Jack the Ripper locations in the dark, which made it a bit more exciting. And but last week was better because last week it was raining, and that sort of added to the atmosphere. Whereas today it was okay. So thanks for being here. I've just uploaded, this is obviously only premium users, but I just uploaded something on the band leader I mentioned earlier, and I've uploaded about 4 videos about in the last 2 days, I think it is. So I'll do something tomorrow. I haven't decided what. I might do something else on Jack the Ripper. I might do, I don't know. It depends what I'm feeling like. I'll decide sometime tomorrow afternoon. Anyway, thanks for listening, and bye for now. Bye, Lily. Bye. Oops, turn off here. And I was trying to turn off on the computer.